All right, greetings. Sending you all some warm, positive vibrations. This is Body Culinary, Chef Coach Kwasa coming at you live from Crown Jewel. And I'm going to come on here today and I'm going to discuss some important issues around women and working out and why we don't work out, why we don't engage in a movement practice, even though it's so critical. And today I have a guest. I feel blessed to have her again in the house. We have Kemi Blake of Body Chemistry. And I want to say, although I have a 30-day challenge that's going on, devotion over discipline, to really help us to reframe how we're thinking about movement. I'm a connoisseur of coaches, so I like excellent coaches. And actually, I joined a really special 7-day challenge with another fantastic coach. She's very, very unique in her approach. And I really love good coaches. So we have Chemistry Blake here, and it's a 7-day challenge around embodiment, and it's very, very different. So I want to say, first of all, that I'm going to introduce Chemistry. Hey, greetings. I feel so fortunate to have her. I'm doing a 30-day challenge, but I am taking Chemistry's 7-day challenge. And she just called me. See, maybe I'm just a movement geek and a nerd, and I'm just really appreciative of really special creme de la creme people. She called me here in Central America to give me feedback on a workshop that she's having, which I think is super generous of her to give an hour of her time to people. And I have had some really exquisite, priceless coaches. And for her to give me that kind of customer service, to call me in Central America, to give me feedback on what she saw in my body. So I'm smart enough to know that I don't know everything, even though it's been going on 4 decades in food and fitness and movement, yoga, but I'm smart enough to know that I don't know everything. And this is why I'm going to keep it real. All women, especially chocolate women, I invite you, especially my younger flowers, to take your coins. Don't be cheap with yourself, because you're going to pay later, and invest in yourself. You should have a movement coach, a coach to help you get your mind and your body right, to help you with good decisions, your food. This is an investment rather than spending more money on more clothes and whatever wear. But let me just introduce Kemi. Please introduce yourself. And so we could just go over the feedback that you gave me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Kwasa. Yes, so I'm Chemistry, and I am a movement and breath coach, right? I focus on postural alignment so that we can align our spines to be able to breathe more efficiently. And I came about this practice as a result of my own desire to be a contortionist at 30. So I started the journey at 30, having come from not a background. I had no background in gymnastics or any of that sort of stuff growing up. And I just got this crazy idea at 28, but at 30 was when I was like, okay, I'm going to actually start going for this. And I didn't know a lot of things, and I was just taking classes here and there. I was taking yoga, I was taking rhythmic gymnastics, I was taking everything that I could take so that I could reach the level of flexibility that I had desired in my mind. And along the way, I learned a lot of things, right? I learned a lot of things about the body. I learned a lot of things about the nervous system, because oftentimes we try to approach things, I guess, in a, how would you say? I don't want to say a linear perspective, but we try to mimic the thing, right? We want to copy. We're like
at the surface level, you're doing right, I look at your pictures and I want to do what she's doing.
Right, exactly. So we look but we don't see all the movement behind that, all the things that have to take place in order to reach that particular pose or posture. And so a lot of times we're going for it, but we're trying to move beyond our breath. Right. Mm-hmm. And so our nervous system reacts, because I know for me, I was trying to bypass my nervous system. I was like, I'm just going to skate past. I'm going to grin and bear it. And I'm just going to get there. And I'm like, I mean, that's a way to do it, but it leads to injury and it's not comfortable. Right. Mm-hmm. So what I learned was that I can't bypass the nervous system. I need to work with it. And that's how you create efficient and effective and lasting change. And so today's focus in my challenge, because I have very specific body cues that I focus on so that people can regulate their nervous system, because a lot of when your posture is in a compromised position, so you have your spine in a compromised position and there's compression on different vertebrae, you are creating sorry, I was getting a
You
call.
said you are creating.
Tension. There's tension being pulled on the spine, and that's where your nervous system is housed, right?
Okay, so excuse me 1 second. So this we can make this like layman's terms, right? Perhaps we think, okay, it's like I find that we, especially women, I find that we parrot a lot. You know, we like to have the right answer, and then we get validation from the group. And so there are a couple of things that you said, and I'm saying this, breaking this down, because I'm sometimes my mind is blown at why women are not on fire to get a movement practice in terms of the cost of what that's going to look like. And I don't know if it was you that sent me the video on the hips. I think it was you on the person, Mel Robbins, the interview with the surgeon.
Yes, yes,
and that almost, I feel that in my chest. It's so triggering for me, because I have been saying what that woman was saying for years. So the surgeon and Mel Robbins were talking about what women are going through with hip fractures. And I've been saying for the longest time, when we get a slip or a fall, our lifespan goes down immediately. And it seems like, what's the connection to the layperson? And if we still are around, our quality of life goes down, but it's not registering with women. To me, when it really clicks, we should be on fire, prioritizing movement, especially when you think of a good portion of without shaming, good portion of the population now, especially younger, is on drugs to regulate. Well, now I don't want to say regulate the nervous system, but to make it so we can cope and get through the day and go to work. It's not healing anything. It's not addressing the issues. It's not addressing what's having you clench and be triggered. It's not doing any of that. It's not solving. It's a coping mechanism, and it's vices, and it's also weakening the organs and the nervous system. So I just want to take a minute, if we could break down for folks, for education, I know it sounds basic, but what is the nervous system? What is the vertebra, right? And how does that play out in our life?
So the nervous system, in layman's terms, is basically the aspect of spine or brain, like the body, that protects you. It responds to your external stimulus, right? So if there is a threat, it's going to go into a specific mode. It's going to start producing like cortisol and adrenaline and these chemicals to basically support the organs that like run away or get
out of harm's way, get the heck out, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. But it's also going to, again, decrease the chemicals that support rest and digestion and all of that other stuff, because that's not so important in this moment if you're stressed out. Like, it's either live or die. And so the body starts to shut down certain functions in order to send all the energy to the part of you that's going to be able to, like, for example, run away, right, from the situation. Mm-hmm. So basically, your how do I explain? So your body, we are physical beings, right? But we're living in the world. And so our body we receive feedback and sensory input from our surroundings, right?
And so our mechanoreceptors, yes, right? We can sense if it's cold or hot. Right. We have nociceptors for pain. So basically, the brain and the spinal cord have nerves that come to the outside of the skin and the organs that can sense what's going on in the environment, right, and then give feedback on how it should respond. Right?
Well, what happens is when we are in compromised positions, the energy output to those receptors, those sensory receptors, gets reduced, and therefore it weakens our ability to respond efficiently and effectively to the external stimulus. Hopefully that's not too
That makes perfect sense. Okay, got it. That makes perfect sense.
So that being said, a lot of times when we are stressed or feeling anxiety or any sort of unpleasant emotion, feeling, not only emotions also kind of register like as physical pain too, like in the body. So that's a whole nother conversation. But what happens is we reach for things, distractions, chemicals, drugs, or things to try to suppress what we feel instead of actually addressing what we feel on a physical level or emotional level. So my work focuses specifically on the physical body, aligning the physical body as well as aligning the emotional body, because it comes as a natural consequence of addressing the physical body. So a lot of us are held in positions that keep our nervous system in a fight or flight state. So we are hunched down looking at our phones like this all day. This posture creates tension on the spine, right? And it compresses
Yeah, because I call it computer neck, right?
Right. Tech neck, all this. Yeah, like there's so many things.
And you don't
Right.
even realize we don't walk backwards and we don't look back here. So these
Right.
muscles get weaker.
Right. And then that
weaker.
also compromises your ability to breathe, because now, first of all, oxygen is like the most important nutrient that your body needs. Without oxygen, you are no longer able to be in this, connected to this physical body, right? So the average person takes 22,000 breaths a day. And if your breath is compromised because you're in a position that does not support natural breathing, then you don't get the amount of oxygen to your body gets reduced, and that has a whole host of consequences, right? Health wise. So I focus on aligning the spine so that you can breathe efficiently, and that you can also anchor yourself in the present, and you can be aware of what's going on around you, and then you're now more equipped to respond in a healthy, mindful manner to whatever is going on around you. Oftentimes, like, imagine, like, let's say somebody steps on your toe, right? And now you're like, or somebody cut you off in traffic and you're like, ready to burn everything down. So it's like, why is that? Why do we respond that way? So what I like to do, again, in my practice, it's very slow. It's very internal, meditative. It's a movement meditation, so that you can really just observe yourself. And what happens is that people observe, when they start observing themselves, right? Especially after a long time of avoiding, they start to notice that things come up that are unpleasant, like shame, judgment.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes. Listen. Okay, so this morning, right, after I did my movement practice, I jumped on because I was not going to miss this opportunity to work with Kemi. And she had us doing tongue placement, right? And you think, tongue placement, what that? Now, I am not like all tripped out on she, woo. To me, spirituality is actually very practical, right? So in essence, she gave us cues on where to place our tongue in our mouth. And in my yoga practice, is usually not a talking, it's not a talking practice, none of that. All you focus on is the breath. So I'm somewhat familiar. Yet when she gave me that cue, that instruction of where to place my tongue inside my mouth, what is in the most practical sense, it made my brain go, where's your tongue in your mouth? Okay, place it here. So what happens is my attention starts to go like this, right? And when our attention all day is pulled constantly this way, it's almost like that's an atrophied nuance to be able to do it. Like, it's almost like we literally have no awareness that we have lost and are losing the ability to focus and to turn the attention inward. So meanwhile, you're sitting at your desk 8, 10, 12 hours, getting instruction from this person, that person. Subconsciously, you wish you weren't there. You wish you can go outside and walk. You've got worries about bills. People are flashing stuff on the screens about natural catastrophes. And even though you're sitting there, you're having a response. To me, this is like I love the distinctions. They make the difference. We're not getting that as you're looking at these screens, your nervous system your brain is taking in these sights and these sounds, is panicking, is how do I get out of here? Punch out to here, I have overtime, I got to pick up the kids, the child support, I got to go to court, it's an accident, and it's registering all of this inside your nervous system while you're sitting there, and it's wreaking havoc. The fact that we are unaware, and that we don't have tools, we don't have guidance. We've gone through adulthood and graduated college, some of us with 2 or 3 degrees, without an awareness of our nervous system. This is so catastrophic. This is why I'm like, I am sometimes blown away. I'm like, we are so remedial, we're so behind. We are in a compromised situation, not moving. We think it's for the aesthetics, and you want the arms, and yeah, Kemi's body's on fleek. But we so distracted by that we're focusing on spending $6,000, $7,000, whatever, on and putting body parts in for attention from other people. We have not even thought about the nervous system. It's not even on our radar. It's a total atrophy, lack of awareness. So I'm saying this to get to the root, to go under the hood, to confront and be honest and vulnerable why we don't work out, which we need to be doing yesterday. Because let me just keep it a buck. Last time I checked on the news, when stuff is going on, when women are missing, ain't nobody coming to checking for you. Nobody's coming to check for you. The volatility of many human beings, people popping off, and nobody's checking for you. The drugs that they recommended to help you soothe your nervous system, they're being pulled off the shelves, or they're hiking the price up. You got on Ozempic, okay, it started off $500, it's going up to $1,500.
Now that you're hooked.
Yeah, so the tools are not there. The arts program for your children, funding is gone. Therapy, we don't have that anymore. No more movement, no more breaks. Oh, now you got to pick up the job of 2 people. The resources and the funds are not there. You're expected to go more and more and more while ignoring your nervous system. It's almost like we're being farmed like animals.
It's like doggy paddling through life. It's like you're literally, I don't know if anybody knows doggy paddling, when you're in the water and you're trying to tread water, when you're just trying to stay afloat. Trying to tread water, and you're like this literally the whole time, just trying to keep your neck above the water so you can breathe, and you're stressed out doing it, and you're holding so much tension, and that's not a fun place to be. But
you can't do that but for so long. After a while, if you're really treading water, eventually your muscles give out and you collapse. In this case, your nervous system, even though you're there and you're paying the bills or whatever, your immune system starts to express the cells. We're over 30 trillion cells start to mutate, start to express dysfunction. The nervous feelings that you're ignoring, or maybe you try to push it down with a burger or fries, and I used to be a junk food junkie. You try to push it down, but you cannot lie to your cells. And it's expressing in terms of cancer, mutations, the genes start to express bathed in this fluid of stress hormones with no relief.
And so I wanted to talk about, so today, today's focus was tongue placement. Tomorrow's focus is pelvic placement, proper pelvic placement. And so what I had called you about was to share what I had observed as far as your pelvic alignment and where you're moving from. And the reason why I felt inspired to reach out to you, one, because I felt that you were receptive to the feedback, but also because I saw myself in you, because I know that that's something that I had to work on, and I'm still having to work on all the time, is my pelvic placement, especially as I said this before, as brown women or Black women. I know that, having a big butt is a thing. And so we walk with,
we got the, at the bar.
Yes, that part.
The Gucci bag.
Yes.
And the whole pelvis is like, but it's cute though.
And I'm like, but that is not it. And that is really putting a lot of stress on your lower back. Okay. And it's tightening your hip flexors. It is not helping you at all. I mean, I don't even want to get into the concept of what it's doing to your reproductive organs and all of that sort of stuff, and all of that. But
excuse me, I do want to say one thing, though. May I?
Yes.
You just mentioned hip flexors, so I don't know if you folks know where your hip flexors are. This is why education and quality coaches worth every dime. When you're sitting down in this position. Right? Body's not supposed to be here in this, at this angle. So all the things, if you think of like suspension cables on a bridge, right? You're stuck in this position. It's not supposed to be here. These joints are supposed to be open. We're not meant to be sitting down for hours, in a nutshell. It's throwing the pelvis off, it's throwing your and the body starts to like take on this, it's like kind of stuck. It's
exactly.
Stuck here.
So not only does it tighten those being the hip flexors, these here that flex the hip.
And these hurt sometimes when we ask to do some of these positions, because we don't use these muscles, we don't move this way. So So it just starts to hurt.
It's weak and tight, right? And then what also gets weak is these muscles back here.
From sitting.
Because but from sitting, let's be specific, sitting like this in chairs, also where when you're sitting and you're not mindful of using your own muscles to support you, right? So you can sit like I'll give this as an example, because we do sit, right? As people, we have to sit. So I like to sit in a position that's going to support better biomechanics for me. So I sit like this all the time. And you'll see me doing interviews or sitting down. I'm here with my legs folded, my legs open, whatever you can. This may not be accessible to everybody, this particular posture, but anything that you can do, that you can even sit with your legs straight out, but being mindful, because now me sitting with my legs straight out, I notice, okay, if I'm just relaxed, I'm here. Look at this, this posture here. I'm here.
Mm-hmm. But so your back muscles are not activated at all.
Right. And they turn off and then they don't work. So what I like to do is sit up. And it's easier to do that when you're on the floor. The floor is flat, so you have the feedback from the floor. Also, you're going to want to start to move, because certain positions are going to be uncomfortable sitting in for that long.
It can even register like it hurts, like almost painful, which will make people, especially as we become more seasoned, right? Mm-hmm. We want to run. I would say we want to run like, I know I would go to squat a lot, just because I know when I would go to Chinatown and hang out in Chinatown, that I would go to the park with the seniors and hang out there. I have never seen more vital people than the seniors in Chinatown. They're squatting and chilling and playing all kinds of checkers and chess. They're literally like that, and they're like 80s and 90s in Chinatown, because it's part of their culture. I can even see people by the fish market, the workers, squatting.
This is what I was saying about culture. So when I was in China, when I was in India, same thing. People are working literally. You'll see shoemakers and cobblers and people selling, produce or food, and they're sitting like this. And these are like not even your aunties and uncles. These are your grandmas and grandpas,
elders.
Full hip open. They put me to shame. I was like, oh my God, my legs just open and hips are open.
Not only that, I find that definitely helps with elimination for constipation, because your organs now are lined up, and it opens up your back, believe it or not. People are trying to focus just on the butt, but when you're able to sit like a baby, when the babies are squatting, I find it opens up your back over time. So I love functional movement. It's my favorite type of movement. Even though I've trained, I've done competitions and stuff like that, and I can get a leg press machine and I can press stuff, but I'm like, how much sense does it make? I could get a beautiful looking quad, right? And muscle from sitting in there. But if my butt is turned off and my back is I'm skipping over a whole muscle group, that's actually dangerous, and it's an accident waiting to happen.
Right. So you can have muscle hypertrophy,
which is a nice firm muscle
and big
rounded
muscle. Mm-hmm. But it may not be as strong as so I don't lift weights, right? Like, I'm not against lifting weights, but I may use like actually a 10-pound dumbbell for some things or whatever. Like, actually I use it to help me get deeper into stretches and positions. But I'm saying that to say I build strength based off of functionality, right? And I remember I was next to somebody. He was like a bodybuilder, he's got big muscles and all the things, but it was not functional, and he was tight and stiff, which also leads to it leaves you more open to injury, right? Because you don't have the range of motion. So God forbid you slip or something move it. Now your body doesn't know that range, and you've torn something or whatever. And I remember us doing these exercises, and he thought because I'm so little that I wasn't going to be able to do this exercise. I'm beasting it out, right? And he's struggling. I'm like, but he's this big old man with all this.
His whole chain is not activated. I've had that situation training men before at Equinox, a lot of lawyers there. And I remember having a gentleman, this lawyer, he had issues. He had pain, he had issues in his physical therapy office and most high-end gyms. So that should tell you something. And so I gave him a lot of functional movement with medicine balls and just cueing and balancing, even taking his shoes off. And he was so upset and angry. He was angry. He said, I don't want to do these girly exercises. I want some weight. I said, well, I want you to go up to the physical therapy office and give them this program, because we're required to do programs. I want you to go upstairs and give this program to the physical therapy office and see what they have to say. Because I said, you won't be suing me out here. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't balance. He couldn't effectively move his body weight. You know what I'm saying? And in terms of vitality, and just FYI, as somebody that keeps my ear to the ground in the bodybuilding community, I don't know if you know who Ronnie Coleman is.
I don't.
Yeah, so one of the former Miss Olympias that's won so many times. Most Flex Wheeler, some of the finest chocolate bodybuilders ever. One has his leg amputated, looks crazy, all the muscles like gone. Ronnie Coleman cannot walk. I think he's won, I don't know, 7, 8 times Mr. Olympia.
Wow.
He cannot walk. And what's crazy, when you look down in the comments, he's considered like almost like a god. And people are like, yeah, Ronnie. He just came out of the hospital. This guy's had so many surgeries. Most of the top bodybuilders become non-functional. Non-functional. I know from working with all types, some of the most beautiful bodies, the client can't see it, but folks are taking cortisone shots and things inside of their spine. They have a limited range of motion. They have so much injury. They got the muscle and they pose and crab most muscular. They have so much injuries, the longevity is not there. So I have known always, I'm going for the long term. I don't want to look good just to be on stage and then I can't walk. I want to function and be able to protect myself in my 60s and my 70s.
Every time I see, so I worked in a gym too as a personal trainer, and they had, you know, the people training for bodybuilding and stuff. I liked the aesthetic, but I guess, thank God, I was actually breastfeeding at the time, so I was like, this is not going to be a healthy moment for me to like do this. So and it saved me because I didn't go into it, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I saw how unhealthy most bodybuilders are. And I'm not even talking about just taking like all these extra supplements or whatever,
steroids and stuff like that.
Steroids and stuff. Just even natural people, a lot of it's just very
it's stiff. Now that is linear. You said linear earlier. The movement is linear because most of the movement is in the sagittal plane. Right. So it's only this is all you do is this, sit up. But the body is designed to move in all 3 planes of motion. And when we get injured, we're usually going, like, if I go to pick something up or reach for something, I'm going through all the 3 planes. So a little education FYI, if we do snow angels on the floor, right, that's the frontal plane, right, for sandwich between 2 planes of glass, and then movement this way, movement around the body is a transverse plane. That is usually left out. Which means there are whole muscle groups that are not being activated and used.
Anytime I see somebody lifting heavy weights with a weight belt, I'm like, my eyes roll up in the back of my head, because I'm like, that is what your muscles are supposed, your transverse abdominal muscles.
That's your girdle. That's your weight belt.
That is your weight belt. So if your weight belt is not working, then you putting on an external weight belt to create this
compression or pressure.
Exactly. Is you trying to bypass a whole muscle group that is going to support you to be able to do this movement efficiently and safely. So going back to what I was saying about, okay, so today we had focused on the tongue.
Tomorrow's pelvis.
Right. So tomorrow's the pelvis. I reached out to you because I saw that I saw you moving how I used to move, and I was like, maybe she's unaware of where the movement should initiate from, because I know I was unaware. I know that I just assumed that, oh yeah, so that the spine has this natural curvature, so that's where it's supposed to be. And from doing observation hours at a physical therapy clinic, I also see that they have a standard, like this is what is normal. And you're this age and that age. For example, they told me about my heart rate. So your heart rate when you're like, 18 to whatever it is supposed to be a certain thing. As you get older now into your 30s and 40s, it goes lower. This is normal. So
but the standard is low.
So listen, so this is what I got present to. So we had a patient in there, and she was 18, and the physical therapist that I'm shadowing is explaining to me how, what to look for, what are the metrics. Okay, so her heart rate should be within this range, blah, 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 blah. Now, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Afterwards, he tested my heart rate to show me that it was supposed to be lower because I'm in my 40s. And when my heart rate was the same or as the young 18-year-old, he was like, his first thing was like, do I make you nervous or something? He's like, are you nervous? And I was like, no, why would you ask that? He's like, well, did you drink coffee? I was like, I don't drink coffee. He's like, well, what, like, why is he's like, there's something wrong because your heart rate is really fast. And I'm like, well, that got me present because I wasn't going to go back and forth with him about this. But what it got me present to is that we are setting standards based off of what we're seeing as the norm, but not necessarily what is healthy for an individual who is living, I guess, a more mindful and intentional life, like where you prioritize health and fitness and all of that stuff, mobility, movement. Yeah, so that's why I was like, okay, let me go back, because I know a lot of us think, oh, well, the spine is just supposed to do like this. And I'm like, well, technically, this is just based off of what the majority of people
The
do.
standard population.
The standard population. So yes, you can be here and this is fine. But if you want to go deeper into the practice and if you want to develop and cultivate more mobility, I was like, okay, let's look at it differently. So now when you understand that the movement, and this was for this particular exercise where we were doing basically glute bridges, right? So we were basically doing glute bridges. And what happened was when you were doing the bridge, you were arching your lower back, right? So basically your pelvis was in an anterior
tilt.
Right. And so this is common, especially because we don't live in Asia.
But do you know what, in my mind, I was thinking because I was tucking, that I was actually making sure that I didn't have anterior tilt. And I'm saying this as a coach going on 4 decades. Again, this is the distinction. Think of just quality movement, longevity, being pain-free. This is why it's good to have another set of eyes, because we don't see ourselves. We cannot say the ego doesn't allow us, and we just can't see those little nuances.
Right. And then you explained to me, right? Like, oh yeah, so I'm trying to get my hips, like, hip flexors, hips to the ceiling. And I understood that, oh, that makes sense, that was your thought process. So that was where you were initiating the movement from. And I was like, so let's see how that would change if you brought the movement from focusing on just the hip flexors and focused on activating the posterior chain by pressing your heels, your feet flat into the floor and engaging. And you gave a great analogy, which totally makes sense to me. But what you said, that red.
I think of like a infrared. Like I've had apps that when they light up, with that part of the muscles are active, then it lights up. So I kind of think of that when I'm activating the muscle.
I'm gonna tell you why that registered for me, because when I do my practice, I realize certain parts are not activated and they're turned off. And I think of always that neon light sign in like anywhere. It could be anywhere, like in a movie or old ghost town where it's neon light, but some of it is flickering and some is so it's like,
it's not a good connection.
It's not a good connection. So it's not lit all the way up. It's like this part is lit, then it gets a little dim here, and then so I understand that, and that's how it feels for me. So when you were saying like activating and that light and going from the feet, feeling the feet, and then going up the calves, up the hamstrings, into the glutes, now you can move differently because you have a different visual and a different understanding, and you're activating the muscles differently, right? So that mind-body connection, that's being activated and adjusted and changed. So we have to, not we have to, but we change our set point, right? Like where our nervous system is, because our nervous system holds our body in whatever the position it is. So in order to change that, it takes time and it takes intentionality. So again, also this brought me to where people are initiating the movement from in the hips, so in the pelvis. So when we think about,
so can we pause for 1 second, because sometimes I love this conversation, but just so I don't want to alienate anyone. Again, part of the intention for this conversation is my thought process, right? As I think about my mom, who's currently, in a hospital / nursing home. As I think about my young cousin dying from cancer, as I think about the morbid obesity in my family, as I think about the amputations in my family, it's like, this may sound like a bunch of hogwash. It may seem like it's simple. Why are they naming all these body parts? Why aren't we on fire and prioritizing movement? Like it's going last. And I get it. I get it, feeling so overwhelmed. Like there's a thought process, I don't have time to exercise. I invite you to consider, you don't have the time to not just exercise, a movement practice. If you're in your 30s or in your 40s, you're moving into the next phase of life. I even saw one stat that said actually 38 is midlife. Wow. When you think of the average lifespan of people living to their 70s, some people are living longer with the assistance of being on life support or other stuff. But I saw a stat today that said 38. When you consider your quality of life, when I'm talking about quality of life, if anybody's a nurse out there or have worked with seniors, quality means you're mobile, you're pain-free, key. Pain-free, because the people in my family, people I work with that, especially in the States, you have medical care. You are a walking bag of money in terms of the amount of pain medications you're on. We don't consider that we are legally addicted to pain medications. A toothache will knock me out. I never took anything for my cycle, but a toothache, you could get me to take something. That all bets are off with a toothache. But pain is humbling. And because we are not addressing these things, we are sitting ducks. I'm going to say we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer, and it's going to be very expensive. If you are not moving, or if you are a parent, I invite you to consider the burden that is on your children. I get it. We're stressed out and we're soothing, and the food tastes good, and the weed, we got dispensaries. But if you're not addressing it, your kids got to pick up the tab. We don't consider that our children are going to suffer because some of them, they don't have it like that to pay for. You know how much it costs to have somebody in a nursing facility, a decent one? And then if you have to pay somebody that's not interested in you to treat you well, to feed you a good juice, to not give you slop, to care about you, to nurture you, to nourish you, to make sure you're not being abused by caretakers. I'm like, we are blind. Our priorities are off just so you can fend for yourself in this climate as you get older. Can you imagine, Kimmy, that you get stuck in a revolving door? That you can't push yourself out of a revolving door. Nobody's thinking about that. When you got a fresh brand, young, you're not thinking about that. Or if you've had one or two little falls, or even a little trip off the curb, and you start to hurt yourself, and let's say you're one of these, everybody's single now, and you don't have family members, that are living somewhere across the world. How are you fending yourself? You can start to become so inhibited and scary that I know someone that won't come out of their apartment. You become a slave to your apartment. Do you hear what I'm saying to you?
Listen,
you thinking about a BBL? I'm no shame. The BBL, the silicone, or what has no nerve endings. Your glutes are designed to fire, so you can get out of harm's way.
A great example, and I know someone. I think she was like between 42, 44. She had a BBL at somewhere around there. And then at this age, between 42, 44, she had a hip replacement. Hip replacement. They replaced
so how
the
your
whole
glutes
hip.
move your leg.
So I'm going to explain. So she didn't understand how she got there. Now, I understand because, so first when you're having this exercise, and I also had a client who had a BBL who, because we were working together. And, because I know what to look for in terms of muscles and what needs to activate. And I didn't know exactly what she had, but I was like, something is not connected here because, they have to get the lipo first and then they. So
for the fat transfer, right?
Right. For the fat transfer and stuff. So I think it was just simple. Like there was stuff around the midsection that it just wasn't quite moving the way that it ideally should move, and I didn't know what had happened, but I was like, hey man, I asked. She was like, okay, I had a BBL. So I understand. And she also was like, she doesn't have any connection. She cannot feel like the glutes. And so I remember she started crying because it was like an emotional moment. Part of it is, it's emotional when it's confrontational to just be with yourself, period, right? And then to feel feelings or to be aware that you're not feeling something and maybe you should be feeling. And so then she started crying and was like, I don't even know. I don't even know why I can't feel my glutes. Like I can't feel my body. There's a disconnection there. And then, so with the young lady who had the hip replacement, it was so crushing.
How old was she? What was her age?
She was like 43.
Wow. Wow.
Right. And so I remember, and I saw her, I only know from social media that she had the hip replacement. I had spoken to her before she had the hip replacement, and we were speaking, and I was just telling her about the work that I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. I guess she had questions, and she was like, yeah, because I think she was talking about low back pain or hip pain or something. Yeah. And so then when I looked at, then when I saw that she had the hip replacement, I was like, that makes sense, because what muscles keep your hips in place?
The
Your glute
glutes.
muscles, your glute muscles, and then obviously also your hamstrings are connected to that and all that sort of stuff. So you really want to have a stable structure, right? But your glute muscles are your hip muscles. So if
Even as you say this, it makes me, I feel sensitive and anxious because no one is equating, right? The average woman that's not a Kardashian, not a celebrity. We're not we just want to look good, and that's not a crime. But we're not associating these procedures with suffering. It's not on the radar. People are going to take your money. I've seen somebody took, I think this girl, I don't know if she was 16 or 18 and had a BBL, and they took her money.
they took
I
my
think it was
money,
16.
did I tell you I had a fat transfer? I tried to get bigger breasts. I had, but I was always small. I was never, I never.
Honey, I love me some small thick thighs, honey.
Listen,
Honey,
well,
bring
this is
these
all
back.
this is all I got. This is what I mean, because I'm unwilling to go through. Now, I had a lot of shame at the time. Like, this is probably the first time publicly that I think I've even said that. I think maybe, like, I don't think I've ever, like, on any of my socials mentioned that whole thing. I think I had a lot of shame around it, and then
Around the size of your breasts?
I definitely had shame around the size of my breast. But I had a lot of shame around the whole procedure and having had a procedure, the fact that it was completely unsuccessful, and I wish I could take it back and undo it. Like, I was like, I would never, like, it was a waste of time, waste of money. It was excruciating. It was a lot of pain. It was a lot. Maybe I'll do a whole thing on that one time, like a completely separate occasion, because no one talked to me about that.
Nobody talks about the pain with the fat transfers and lipo. It's painful.
I didn't even think about lipo. Because I never was big, so I was never like, in order to get the fat, they have to do lipo. And
you didn't have a lot of fat.
I didn't have a lot of fat, and the guy literally, I woke up. That was like the first thing he told me. The doctor was like, it was like a 10-hour procedure, something really long, ridiculously long. He's like, because we couldn't find enough fat, and he didn't want to, like, because he already took my money. I'm already open. I'm on the table.
He already took your money. You think that doctor couldn't assess that you didn't have enough fat before you got on that table?
Exactly. So, so it was that, and it was just a whole lot of, like, the recovery. He was like, oh yeah, in 3 weeks. Lies. It took me even years, to be honest, to recover. And then I'm trying to think. I was doing acupuncture. I was doing bloodletting. What's that? Cupping. I was doing all kinds of things to move, because there was so much stagnation. And then the immobility. I had to stay still. I couldn't even move after the procedure. So I'm staying in. My legs are like, the muscles are atrophying. My legs are stiff. It was really bad, and no one talked about it.
And you paid for that.
And I paid for that. I wish I knew. That's the part that I felt shame around. I sit here and gave this man my money to jack me up. And
listen,
I was just like,
and so this is why these conversations are so important, because vetting or research today is going to somebody's channel who, we got the same haircut. Oh, we went to the same school. Oh, I like her singing voice. Oh, I like the way her glutes look. That's how people are getting their information and basing what they should go on without any lived experience. And it is such a setup for young women. It's like watching young women walk off a cliff. Even older women now, now that you have the disposable income, walk off of a cliff.
And for what? So here's the other thing that it got me present to. What was this for? Was I making my breasts bigger to be physically attractive and sexually attractive to men who I'm incompatible with? What is it? Well, I was like,
let me get some water. I need a drink. I need a drink. Let me get some water.
I'm like, who is this
ghosts
for?
On the internet. So you can look attractive and get a like from ghosts on the internet. Or I would say, I'm big on this. Clarity is worth its weight in gold. We're turning ourselves inside out for people who were, even though they may have body yada yada. I've been around some of the best bodies. I dated a professional bodybuilder. who are not kind,
No
who
integrity.
lack intimacy,
Mhm.
dishonest, mean. How is your yoni getting moist for a mean person who is also has unhealthy habits?
Right.
How? Disconnect is on 100.
You know, listen? I mean, we can
I
answer
need
that
a
question
drink. Let me get some fill.
because I'm like, I mean, a lot of it, music is a lot of. I just came. I was looking at somebody's page, and I mean, and they say, I was looking at somebody's page, and I felt resonance with this woman at first because she was interested in health, like healthy eating, natural eating, and she is from New York, from the Bronx. And I absolutely dislike the Bronx just because of the vibration of the space.
Mm.
The energy is so low. I lived there for like 4 months. I was like, I can't do it. But I appreciated so much that she stayed in the community and was serving the community and providing healthy natural food. She has a garden and all the things. And I was just like, oh, this is great. I love what she's doing and I want to support. And so, I mean, I wasn't like close together. I'm not like following her on social media or whatever, but recently, or she had posted something about, so she used to be overweight. And then she had some surgery, I guess, to lose the weight. And so now she's like body's tea and all the things. Um, and she posted something and she was like, normally I wouldn't ask for advice from the internet because I know y'all trolls and blah, 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 blah. But she was feeling particularly sensitive about a topic. I guess somebody had, somebody who she was interested in or starting to talk to, something like that. He had messaged her and he had made some comment about how beautiful her body was. And she was like, is this just old programming that feels like a backhanded compliment? Like it doesn't feel like it felt off to her. And she was like, because she was used to, not being attractive or being ridiculed for how she looked. And so now that she is receiving so much, I guess, praise and interest for how she looks, right? That's like the exact opposite of how she used to feel and what she used to experience from people. And so she's like, now, like, is she resistant to it because of her old programming? Or is something really wrong with the way these people are approaching her? And I normally would never chime in, but I was like, let me reach out to a sister. Let me be of service. Let me share something that might be of value. And it was not met with with the energy that I sent it. She actually ended up calling me fat phobic.
Oh, wow.
She said she did recognize that I put a lot of thought into my comment and because I did. And she was like, and she could appreciate that, but she was like, to be honest, it made her uneasy and uncomfortable because she felt that my comments were borderline fat phobic because I was saying, I said, I don't think that it is anything wrong for a person to look at you because when we don't know each other, we're just looking at the surface. We just see the surface. We just see the physical. And so there are certain things that I know that I look for in the physical to see if this is a person that I might possibly be aligned with. Now, I don't stop at the physical, thank God, but at least I'm like, okay, is this person, for me, if he's overweight, right. If he's overweight, we're not in alignment, right? All right, like he's already, like, because he doesn't prioritize like the physical body, the movement in the way that I prioritize. I'm not saying that it isn't important to him, but it may not match how I choose to move and take care of my body. So I was saying that, when I look for someone, I do look for the physical because I'm paying attention to this and this, and I don't stop there and blah, blah, blah. So naturally, if somebody sees you and they admire your body and then they may also have a similar thing that they're looking for. They might say, oh, okay, well, this person might prioritize health and fitness in a similar way that I do. So I think I said, because I prioritize health and fitness. That was the part that she felt was fat phobic because she was saying, well, when I was fat, this is her word that she said. So I'm not calling her names, but she's like, when I was fat, I was still eating healthy and serving the community and really, prioritizing healthy food. Now, I am sure that is true.
But so pause 1 second. So the whole message was fine, but the last sentence, because I prioritize, I'm just gonna say it. It's almost like you're being shamed in reverse for saying that I prioritize health and
Well,
fitness.
this is what she said. She said health because she's saying that you can be fat and be healthy.
I
And
disagree. Well, excessive, because we do
right.
need some fat on the body. And this is my contention with this whole body positivity movement, which has already played out because a lot of the body positivity influencers have been dropping dead
Or
at,
dropping
at a
weight.
young age, and dropping weight. You know, I can think of several. One that is more maybe closer to my generation, so I'll speak on because I know people are really sensitive. But I remember I used to kind of like, sort of like Monique.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And my sister used to be watching her specials, and when she had a special and she was speaking, and I wasn't looking at the screen, my sister was looking at the screen. And I just heard it in the background. Whatever that was, what she said, I said, "Dang!" I said, she had said skinny BIHs, and I said the tone. It sounded so mean. That sounded very mean. I was like, "Wow!" And she kept going in. I was like, "I can't watch her." I said, "She is mean. She is like, why would you be going in on somebody because they're slim?" Is given. It's off because it's so mean spirited. And I'm saying this is another chocolate woman. And then eventually she's on a whole campaign to lose weight. And that's happened with another popular, I think this generation,
Even
another.
Lizzo.
Yeah, so I don't follow her. That's not my generation. And what some young ladies would tell me she's very talented with different instruments. Maybe just the topic matter, whatever, it doesn't draw me. I like old school music. But so all the time, perhaps this person was desiring that body type and, we project things back and forth. But I would say, especially as a person of Afro descent and ascent, our numbers are the unhealthiest in the world. We've got great genetics and we can sprint and we can b-ball and all of that. But our numbers, when it comes to the comorbidities, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, are off the chain, unmanageable. The population in general is over 80% of the population, American population, is unhealthily overweight. So I love education and to make the distinction. It's not to shame anyone because it's confronting. Right? It's not to shame anyone, but it's to say your body is in a state of emergency. Do you want to wait until the amputations? Do you want to wait until there's medication? Do you want to wait until they pull the medications off the shelf and you had no idea how to regulate your blood sugar? You're just being sold more pills, more herbal detoxes, but we're not going underneath the hood to the root of these issues.
And so that's so with her, and I really took that because I was like, dang, because one, I really wanted to be of service and I wanted to connect. So I was disheartened that it was met with that energy. I did appreciate that she didn't like go off or whatever, and that she tried to meet me with a similar kind, respectful energy. But I was like, wow. So one, I think when you mentioned Monique, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's kind of like it's like a us and them. I think also from your time, if you've been made fun of, if you've been, like especially by people who are skinny or thin, it's like you have this defense mechanism, and then it's hard for you to even hear somebody who looks like the person that persecuted you or made fun of you or laughed at you. So I think also her seeing, I don't know how much she knows of me or seeing me. We've been following each other on social media for a while, but I don't know if she actually follows me or sees me, but she can see my profile pic and clearly I'm thin. And so I think that might also be a thing that sometimes people feel that, oh, because this person has been small, like maybe she is coming for me or I have this negative,
it's a reverse projection, and it's almost like you don't have the right. I received that too, like almost like you've never been fat. You don't have the right to speak. Well, I was teetering there. Obesity and high blood pressure is waiting for me. I make no butter beans about it. I never thought that my mother, and I love my mother, I love her to life. I never thought that she would become, it feels sensitive to say because my mom obese. But my mom, my grandma on my maternal side, and I invite us to consider all of who we are is not our weight. That's for sure. I would not say my mother doesn't have value because her body is a certain way. I would even I like to deconstruct it and reframe it as your weight is just a manifestation of our inability to effectively manage stress. And it's showing up the self-soothing and the numbing and the disconnection. So perhaps when we look at it like that, we can approach it. It's not so sensitive. We have to recoil, and it's a fight, and it's the us against them. Because I have these conversations. I've been having certain conversations with my mother for years out of fear. When I'm looking into my mother's eyes, like, it's so triggering to me from a young age to watch her suffer. That's what's triggering. And so we don't consider how us being unhealthily overweight, or once the children learn, because my grandma wasn't fat, she was just grandma, right? But she used to have to take her stomach and put it here, right? So as a child, and then she said, go get my insulin out the fridge. And I would watch, I'm scared of needles, and she would have to wipe her leg and inject us. I'm scared of needles. So as a child, I'm like, is that gonna be me? So my eyes are peeled. I'm trying to watch what's leading up to this. And that's not my mother. Will that be my mother? So I've watched people have strokes in front of me, a slight stroke from alcohol. You know, so we don't consider how you're a child, that is trauma. That's like, I'm a lot better, but that's triggering when I think of my mom not being here, or her suffering. And when you're a child, the thought of your mom not being here, you're vulnerable to everything. So we're not, as women, we're not considering what this is. I'm just going to say this last thing. When we don't address not the weight, but the self-soothing, why do we need to numb out so much? Your child, imagine your child, right, has to handle your arrangements. As culturally, we don't like to have these uncomfortable conversations. And you did the right thing. You left insurance. But your insurance does not cover the size of the casket. Your child has to deal with that. We don't think about that. This is not to shame. This is what I'm saying. I'm constantly, maybe from being in these different environments, and also when I used to work at Heal Thyself, right? Queen Afua was one of my mentors in my early 20s. When she would do the consultation, I would be at the other end to go over the protocol that she recommended for folks. And there were so many people that came through that door where the doctor's like, there's nothing else we could do for you. That's why they went to raw foods. That's why they were going vegan. We ain't got nothing else for you. We don't have nothing else. That's why they would come to help. Today, a lot of women won't change. I'm going to tell you, won't change their diet unless, okay, that'll make my hair grow. Okay, I'll change.
So,
it's part of species.
So that's the part. So here's the thing about that whole vanity element. And we talked about that before. So going back to this sister in the Bronx, like, I think she also felt, again, it's a projection because that's not what I was saying, but I think she felt judgment because she felt that I was saying that because, you know, if you're big, that you don't prioritize health and fitness. But, and that's not what I was saying. And she was like, and I think because, you know, the idea is that, oh, you're lazy or you're this or whatever if you're, you know, overweight. But what it is really, again, is your, I don't want to say inability to manage stress, right? And who wants to be shamed for that? Because imagine you're dealing with you're
saying a whole word. Hold on. Who wants to be shamed for not being able to manage stress? That's a whole word, especially as Black women. Right. We're only just now addressing the strong woman and like deconstructing the strong woman. Strong means how much more can you take without complaining? How much more can you take even though organs are shutting down? I'm fine. So the inability, the generations before us did not have the tools. They didn't have a language. All they had was church, you know, to go feel better and somebody to, you know, lay their hands. That's all they had. But the church was not the therapy. The church was not the workout. I even approached the bishop in my family at a young age to bring a copy of Heal Thyself. I bought my own money. I remember as a young woman, I had bought copies of Heal Thyself and I gave it to the pastor. I was giving it to all my family members because I just saw the suffering. And I approached the pastor and I said, Mommy, it's mostly women at the church. Why is there not a track? All the money you get for a new rector room, why is there not a track? Why is there not a garden? Why? My grandmother that was morbidly obese, she wanted me to be a nurse. And I said, I don't want to be a nurse. Because you're not healthy. That's not a judgment. When in my mind, it's not working.
Right.
I'm watching. I didn't know the language, but I'm like, you're depressed. It's one expression of repression and or depression. And even though I didn't have a language, I'm like, that's not given. That's not what I want. It's not how you express. You're not expressing joy.
Right.
I don't want that for myself. So that's the emergency, and that's not being articulated. We're just being handed some weed, some drugs, some alcohol, more clothes, more makeup. And I'm not necessarily anti-makeup and fashion and things like that, but the priority is underneath the hood, so we could get off of this hamster wheel of more diet book. I mean, people don't say this is ridiculous. People don't say it's not working.
Right.
It's not giving the results.
Right.
I want some kind of results. I don't want to be.
Listen, me and you, that's why we talk, because I am here. I am the choir. I agree 100%. But when people are unaware, and another thing, when I look at this sister, right? Because I mean, in an ideal world, one day we really would meet in person, and I could go to her garden and whatever, and we can like really connect. 'Cause I would love, because it's hard to. I didn't press the conversation online because you don't really know people, and I'm sure people troll all day long, and
the feeling doesn't always read, especially when you're texting or you're commenting. Right. It doesn't read the compassion. I want to connect. It doesn't read all the time online.
So that's why I was like, I'll let it be. But I did say to her, because I wanted to be open, and I wanted her to feel heard and seen. I was like, because she suggested that I read about fat phobia, and I had looked it up, but I was like, right. So she was like, she said she suggested I read articles and some essays and things and studies on them, and I was like, well, please feel free to share, because and I was willing, I was waiting. She said, I'm gonna circle back around and I'll send you some things. I was like, thank you. And she never did. And I don't.
There are articles now around fat phobia. I'm gonna be honest with you. I would love to know who funded those studies.
Listen, I wanted to see these studies
too, because I wanted to know.
Nestle? Listen, I just wanted to see, and I'm gonna tell you another thing that this is important. I think, especially, and I can only speak Black women because that's who I am, right? A lot of us are in this space where we're trying to like justify where we're at. Like, we're creating campaigns around things so that we can feel better about not dealing with issues. For example, like you mentioned, like this body positivity, which is great to love yourself, but really love yourself.
I do get it though, because I know I can think of several examples of body positivity of big women who I absolutely adore. Like, I love Ori Tahiti.
Oh, I don't know.
It's Samoan dance. It's similar to hula.
Yeah.
And it is so sensual. It's actually really beautiful because you can see bigger women. Yeah. Well, big women with bellies embracing their full sensuality. So in that context of, I find it's absolutely stunning and beautiful.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that you have to be small or that you can't be big and be positive about your body. What I am saying is, no matter what size you are, love yourself in honesty. And so if you're truly loving yourself, then I'm not saying that you'll be small or skinny, but are you going to be stuffing your face with things that are not healthy for you, that are causing like hypertension and all of these sorts of things, like things that are not good for you? If that is what you're doing, and masking it and like, BBW, blah, 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 and I'm happy, but you're not, then that's where the dishonesty is.
See, so now that's giving me chills because, that's the bypass. The other day we were talking about emotional bypassing. I'll say this spiritual and religious bypassing. I think perhaps, I was thinking if I'm talking to my younger self or some younger flowers, distinction. We're not very strategic. We don't consider the conflict of interest. For example, the body positivity movement, right? When we see commercials about body positivity, it would behoove us, it would benefit us to look at who funded it. Mm-hmm. Who's paying for that? And as someone that, a lot of times in research and in classes, continuing education, right now, if I pull up the numbers and the stats on heart disease and atherosclerosis, and when I'm watching the surgeries where they have to remove those fatty deposits, it's a total conflict of interest. So because we're so emotional, our emotions and our trauma is being exploited because the facts, not the feelings that people are making up so we can be accepted and feel better. That makes sense. The soothing and feeling better and the comfort and the validation. But the numbers are there. And even if the numbers were not there, why are we not sharp with our common sense? Why can't we see? To me, no, I'm sorry. Not sorry. I've watched the habits of alcoholism, narcotics abuse, which is all self-soothing, and self-soothing with substances masquerading as nutrition. I'm also classically trained as a chef. I love to eat. It's very sensory. But education is probably one of the only is a big factor of stopping me in my tracks. Gotcha. Right? And seeing the suffering sitting in that holistic health center, right? To constantly see the after effects, and then also as a trainer at a really, beautiful gym for people that had the disposable income, to see people that are also very accomplished. And I just feel like, wow, this person has 2-3 degrees, high up in a law firm. I was like, wow, they can't manage to control the food and control their bodies. I'm like, that's a through line from the projects to the Upper East Side. And what is that? It's not the judgment of the person. It's the inability to manage stress, to identify the stress. What's being offered to us on a platter are vices that only chemically have you shut off and numb out your receptors to your brain. So you're not feeling the impact of what's happening. If we could open up our body and see what the liver and kidneys are doing as we overstuff it with food, right? That might stop us in our tracks. If there are now, I wanted to, before I left New York, to go, they had this program for physical therapists to go deal with cadavers. And I would have never thought of it, but I was fast. I want to see. I want to see what's going on. Did you see the bodies exhibit? You remember the bodies exhibit? Did you remember looking at the person that was obese? Did you see that in the bodies exhibit where they cut the layers of the person open and they had it preserved?
Right, in Soho, not Soho, and down by the
yes,
the pier.
Yes, by the pier, and you have the omentum, and you also have what's called a diabetic apron, right? The diabetic apron, when you have a big thick overhang. Many of us don't realize we're en route for a diabetic apron, and also, when we say the stomach is actually very small. The stomach is small. So when we say I got a big stomach, we're not considering your organs are distended. And you have so much, we say inflammation. We throw these words, we parrot. We throw it around. That's why it's not connecting. Right. You're swollen. Right. Your body's having a response. Mercy. It's whatever you're putting in there, it doesn't belong in there. Right? So we're parroting information, but it's like, it's not penetrating in terms of being comprehended. And that is obvious because there's not a sense of urgency to change. The impact, even though there's suffering all around it, that's them. We think it won't be me. Yeah. We think it won't be me. So I really appreciate you providing tools, like really quality tools. Again, so professional. To call me and to tell me, to give me feedback on what you saw in curing. Oh my gosh, top tier, creme de la creme. These are the types of investments that I prioritize for myself. So I know how to really tweak and construct my game plan for vitality. So ideally, so anything can happen, but ideally, I don't want to depend on mean people to wash my backside and serve me a green juice. I don't want to depend on mean people to make sure I'm okay, or to prop me up in the bed, or make sure I'm in a comfortable position. That video that you sent, the surgeon that was describing a woman who had hip replacement, she was in such, toothache is pain, having a child is pain, but this older woman was in such an excruciating pain that she was in a little ball at the foot of her bed, and because she had never done pelvic floor work, was lying in a pool of her own urine. Yeah. In excruciating pain, lying in a pool of her urine. So no, that's not on our radar. Yeah. It's not on our radar. Not me. It's not going to happen to me. And a lot more of us are single or don't have responsible people around us. You're on your own. Your children might be flying across the world and living somewhere else. Women, it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves.
I know we have to wrap up, but we should probably come and talk again about maybe perimenopause, menopause, but what I want to talk about is also women after having children and this incontinence thing and pelvic floor laxity.
And laughing and leaking.
Right. Laughing and leaking.
These are things that we're ashamed about. Because for the longest time, I was like, why don't women talk about it? And eventually it hit me. it hit me. It's shame, number one. And then number two, I do think I'm an observer of patterns. I observe one of the reasons we don't talk about it. Naturally, these things would be talked about in what I would call the Kapangwima, right? The Kapangwima would be the place in some secret societies of women that is like where you go for your rites of passage. Elder women in there, they're giving the secrets of the culture, the secrets of herbs, explaining sexuality, sensuality, the different phases of life. That's ideally where we would have these conversations in safe spaces while you're getting your hair braided or your hair shaved, you're laying on the auntie or grandmother's lap, she's stroking your head, you're being fed the best foods, and you're getting all of this information is being transmitted to you. In the absence of this, you have somebody trying to offer you a BBL or tightening surgeries of your yoni, so you're not, there's literally no instruction on maintaining the integrity and the health of your yoni. People are promoting polyamory with no health and not a focus on keeping yourself safe. I don't understand.
Insurance companies are paying for basically dildos, I don't know another way to say that, for women, especially in menopause or perimenopause, to stimulate the muscles of the pelvic floor.
Yeah, we have to talk about this because, again, if I was talking to my younger self, it is important. Your yoni and your womb organs are directly connected. For male and female, they're connected to your vitality, right? Because with menopause, you're losing a lot of those hormones. We start to age a lot quicker. As the collagen starts to you start to quickly drop in terms of what your face looks like. I'm just going to keep it a buck. I'll be 56. There are going to be changes, and also understand the body's going to age. Your mangoes won't be firm mangoes forever. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. The main priority is keeping them growth and tumor free. If you have good habits, that is your best bet in terms of maintaining the vitality and the freshness of but we are going to age. It just is what it is. But there's so much more for this conversation to be continued. Thank you so much, Kemi. I really, really appreciate just your quality instruction and your patience in holding space, and just for sharing your gift. I so appreciate. All women can benefit from this conversation, but we definitely want to speak to women that look like us, because we both know what it's like to have women that just did not have these conversations, that left us blind. Out here blind, and it's the blind leading the blind on social media, making decisions based on not understanding the conflict of interest, not understanding the long-term repercussions, not having lived experience, and making life-altering decisions without information, and it could alter the trajectory of your life. I know numerous people that have had surgeries that were a catastrophe, and they couldn't find people to rectify it, and it cost them a lot of money to try to undo a lot of these surgeries. That's what you don't hear about. So again, thank you so much, Kemi. I look forward. I'm so blessed to have you again. Folks, please follow Kemi. Do yourself a service and follow Kemi on social media, on her YouTube, also on her Instagram. I'm looking forward to doing more work because I really like to come together with quality folks. I really would like to, my intention is to leverage my time on the internet. It's a lot of smut on here, but we also can be intentional about leveraging and come away with something back for your investment of your time and your attention, where you feel motivated to get into action. So Kemi does have a 7-day challenge that's going on. Even I have a 30-day challenge. I'm in Kemi's 7-day challenge, so that should tell you something.
I gotta get in your 30-day challenge. I gotta see what that's about.
So she's an excellent instructor. The 30-day challenge that I'm doing is it's a transformation, but it's more so focused on devotion over discipline. Right? Going underneath the hood to get to the root of what is driving a lot of our autopilot and self-sabotaging behaviors, right? Because a lot of time that's the part that's not really being dealt with with all these fitness challenges. I'm not a therapist. However, I'm a deep observer of patterns, and going on 4 decades, I've seen a lot of the nuances that are missing as to why we're not able to sustain health and fitness, right? And it's a lot to be able to be comfortable in your skin and to not have to wear a whole bunch of stuff. I used to have a face full of acne. To be able to rock my small tetas and healthy body parts, going on 60 years old. You know what I'm saying? I think it's underrepresented it's getting to a point where you won't know what a real woman looks like. We're starting to look kind of a little crazy out here.
Yeah.
I'm not anti little mascara, little tinted moisturizer, whatever, but I had a lot of acne, so I'm very sensitive. I feel good to be able to wear my own skin and my own hair. And I told you, if my hairline's ever receded back here, I'm not putting no glue on my scalp. I'm gonna cut this sucker off and rock it. I'm gonna rock that peach fuzz just like you.
Why we connect like that? We could have a whole nother. We should do a whole nother one.
We'll do a series.
Hair. Well, because I know you talk a lot about hair, but yeah, yes.
I do think it contributes a lot to emotion. We have options. Let me say that. We have options. We have all, I can appreciate a pixie cut. Some of my best friends had, all kinds. I had a jerry curl and a gold tooth. Okay. Though I do feel the internal pressure to fit in or being judged because you don't have slick down edges and you have a low cut. It contributes to us feeling a lot of anxiety. It affects our nervous system. It causes shame. It causes us to, it can trigger us to overeat. It can cause us to self-soothe. So a lot of these things we're too ashamed to address them, or similar to when you made the comment about to the woman, right? That you can be attacked if you say anything online, or people will take it as an attack, and that's not it. I'm just saying from my experience, it really has been intentional for me to embrace my features, right? I'm likely not going, I want my original body parts. I want to be able to relax as my hair turns white. My hair's just turning, so I got my gradation. I want to relax. I didn't come this far to be turning myself inside out for ghosts on the internet.
That part. See, like I even had someone, I don't know, like I just remember when I was younger, the whole being black or being dark skinned was like taboo. Like the closer you were to lighter, straighter hair. So
light eyes. Don't forget the light eyes.
The light eyes, anything, the closer you were to that, the more beautiful you were, the more attractive you were. So me with my nose, with my dark skin, with my textured hair, it was like I felt like I was constantly trying to hide it. Like I was trying to slick it down so you can't see how in the summer, I remember every time I would go to summer camp, and we'd go on trips and we'd be out in the sun and in the pool and in the park, and I loved those things. But I would come back and they'd be like, "Oh, you got black." And
wow, as like an insult,
right? As an insult, like, "Oh my God, don't do that." So I remember getting that so often that I remember going on these trips and not wanting to get in the water in the pool. I remember one time in particular, the whole time we were at the pool, I sat on the side and I put a white towel over me and I laid there because I liked the heat, but I didn't want to get dark. And I don't know that it worked because I laid there, but still, like I had this white towel over me. And and that was how I spent.
That's so crazy. That's so. I have been intentional. Like, I love your nose. We're cutting off the very things that make us unique. When I was working as a flight attendant, going internationally, I have never been to a country whether my hair was 2-strand twist, which at one time was not allowed in the airline, low cut. There's nothing I ever had with natural hair that wasn't received as beautiful or exotic. But more so than anything, I really like my reflection, and that was intentional. Because there was a lot of other programming there. We'll go on and on and on. So we're going to continue this series. Thank you again so much. Please follow Kemi Blake of Body Chemistry on all social media. Please share this conversation. I will be posting some clips. Likely we'll put part of this on the YouTube. But I invite you to share this, make this positive use of the internet to somebody that you know could benefit. Also, it's a great use of your time to replay this while you're decluttering. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Bye.